Lively crowd, I like it. Thank you all for coming this morning. We're so excited to be hosting you today. Hi, lots of familiar faces in the room. This is great. So some of you are probably already well aware of the Hatchery and what we're doing, and then for some of you this is an introduction to the Hatchery, so we're so excited to host you here today and tell you a little bit more about our project coming down the line. We're opening a new facility in a couple months, so you'll see our team kind of scrambling around and getting everything done. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Natalie Schmulik. I am the CEO of the Hatchery Chicago. You can see the rendering of the space here, and I'll go through some images of our new facility. I'll talk to you a little bit about our mission, what we do with entrepreneurs, and how we provide support to them and to local community residents in the community that we're moving into. And then I'll talk a little bit about some food trends. We have a lot of people here who are well familiar. You have a great understanding of the food industry, but for those of you who are a little bit new to what's happening in the food space, I'll talk about some trends and things that we're already seeing in the space. So what is the Hatchery? The Hatchery is a nonprofit food and beverage incubator. We were developed out of a collaboration between two nonprofits, one being the facility that you're currently in. This is Industrial Council. Okay, good. So some of you are very new to this space. This facility is one of the oldest and largest business incubators in the country. It's a 416,000 square foot facility that houses 110 manufacturers. So a lot of the food businesses that you're aware of are actually housed here. We have 4 coffee roasters, including Metric Coffee, Passion House, Sparrow, Mojo Coffee, Farmer's Fridge. Has anyone seen those beautiful fridges where you can get great food quick, right as you need it, on demand? They're housed here. They actually build those machines, those fridges, on site in this facility. Real Good Juice, which does the juice bars for Whole Foods and have some of their independent locations. Again, they're based here. Lots of great companies that are producing on site here. And over the last few years, food and beverage has become the largest sector in this facility. So that means out of those 110 companies, the majority of those businesses are food and beverage companies. And the reason is there's not a lot of food grade production space available to these entrepreneurs. Typically, they'll start off in a shared kitchen space, and when they grow out of that space, they either have to find a raw space that they would build out themselves, and building out a food grade space is quite costly. It can cost anywhere from $50,000 to over $100,000 to build a food grade facility. And space is very rare. To find that space that you specifically need, including something that might be on the ground floor, something that allows for deliveries to come in and out very easily, can be quite challenging. Now, IC&C has below market rate availability for those renters, but the challenge is still building out a food grade space. That hasn't stopped entrepreneurs from coming forward here, because what they really love is the community here, the support, the fact that this is an incubator and houses several like-minded entrepreneurs, which is why we've seen that industry continue to grow here. But because of that need and that demand, we launched the Hatchery. Our other partner in this project is Axion. Axion is a micro lender, so they provide small business loans to early stage companies, typically those who aren't quite yet bankable, just getting started, and their primary sector is also food and beverage. So the two came together, launched what is now the Hatchery. We've been running for just over 3 years as more of a virtual incubator. We provide a series of seminars, workshops, networking events, coaching sessions, consultations, everything we can do to best support food and beverage entrepreneurs with their needs. That includes everything from a monthly starting a food business class that we run. So we see anywhere from 30 to 40 new food and beverage entrepreneurs every month. We also run classes on accounting, on building a proper business plan. We help with all legalities. Elaine knows this very well. She's taught some classes here in our space. And so these are some challenges that startups face. Sometimes they don't know what they don't know. So how do you know what to ask when you're starting a food business? How do you know what it is to get a trademark? When is the right time to incorporate your business? How do you make sure that you're thinking through all your financials correctly and you're pricing your products the right way? So we provide all of that support, and we actually partner with experts in the industry who will come and speak to our entrepreneurs right here in this space. Now, the most exciting feature is this new facility that we're building in East Garfield Park. So we're building a new 67,000 square foot food and beverage manufacturing facility. This will be one of the largest food business incubators in the country and one of the first to be built from the ground up. As mentioned before, big challenge is finding food grade space. Traditionally, even incubators tend to find an existing infrastructure and they kind of have to build with what they're given. So you can imagine if I have this space here, I really have to work with what I've got to make it a food grade space. We realize that's not ideal for food and beverage entrepreneurs in terms of efficiencies, so we really wanted to design a space that allows for these entrepreneurs to grow, to produce efficiently, and to have their business be as successful as possible. Now, this is kind of a general rendering of the space, but within this facility, all these spaces here, these little boxes that you see, those are private kitchens. So we will have 56 private food grade production spaces. So for an entrepreneur, you can imagine when you grow out of a shared kitchen and you're looking for that next step to grow your business, this is where you'd go. This space gives you 24/7 access to your own space, anywhere from 250 square feet to 500 square feet. So we have a small kitchen, which are these little spaces right here. And then we have a medium-sized kitchen, these spaces right here. We also wanted the space to be modular because we realize companies grow. We want you to start in a small space so that you can familiarize yourself with production, so that you can train yourself and your team to produce effectively. And then when your business grows, we can actually take down a wall and move you into a larger space without disrupting your business, because you know every second matters, and if you have to wait a month to get your facility up and running again, that's disrupting your business. And these entrepreneurs need all the time they can get to keep producing. And that's what we really want to offer. This is also one floor, which again really helps with efficiencies here because you would load in your product, move everything through. This facility here, we've got 3 floors, and so you can imagine you're putting everything into a freight. You're having to get everything up to the 3rd floor, move the food around, you've got pallets. It's not ideal. And so this space is really intended to help remove some of those barriers and some of those hurdles that you're facing. This is the general rendering of the facility. So this is right at Lake Kedzie at the Green Line stop in East Garfield Park. This was very much a decision we wanted to make early on. Is we are more than just there to support entrepreneurs. We're more than just a standard food business incubator. We have a strong social mission connected to what we're doing, and that's to support the community in East Garfield Park. The west side of Chicago is a very underserved community. It's a food desert. It has a high unemployment rate, and we just see it as being an amazing space with incredible individuals who can really benefit from us building this facility on site for multiple reasons. One, many of you got a chance to try some of the pastries here today. That's one of our member companies who's actually based in East Garfield Park. She's a budding entrepreneur. She's been growing her business, and sometimes these individuals just haven't been given the chance to succeed. They haven't been given the right resources, the right information, and so we're able to help these companies get to the next step. We are also there to create jobs and economic growth. And how we're doing that is through food safety training for the community, through job readiness training, through our workforce development. Yesterday, right here, we did our 2nd rendition of our free food handling training. So we offered an opportunity for 15 local residents to get their free training. So we covered the cost. It's about $50 per individual. We cover the cost of their training. Once they have that certificate in hand, it makes them a much more viable candidate to some of those food and beverage entrepreneurs that are growing and looking for someone to bring on their production line to help produce products for them. So that's a key goal for us, and we're always looking for additional partners to help support that community. On top of that, in the facility, we will have a culinary training center that's run by Rick Bayless. So Rick Bayless came on early in this project and realized this is a great opportunity for him to provide culinary training, and he sees challenges on both sides. He knows that not only is there an opportunity for those who might have not had the best luck with a traditional education system to learn a great skill and to find jobs in the food service space, but from the food service standpoint, a lot of restaurants are struggling to find talent, to create sustainable positions. And so we're partnering with lots of restaurants and retailers who also are interested in hiring these candidates once they go through our training program so that they do have those positions available to them. Here you can see our shared kitchen. As I mentioned, the shared kitchen is usually where these startups will begin. And this is intended to build that pipeline. We want to be with these companies every stage of their business, every step of the way. So they'll typically come to us for starting a food business class, learn if this is an industry they really want to go into. As we know, this industry is constantly growing. It's very trendy right now. So we certainly don't want entrepreneurs to have a misconception about the challenges of actually launching and growing a food business. So it's as much our job to guide those who have viable business ideas as it is to make sure that those who may not have the best business plan, who might not be on track for choosing the right business concept, to help guide them in other opportunities so that they're not investing their life savings into a concept that might not go anywhere. So that's really a responsibility of ours and something that differentiates us from other for-profit food and beverage incubators who are really there to rent out space. So the intention is we'll just rent you space whether or not you've got a strong business plan. If you can afford to rent space, we'll bring you in here. Our goal is to make sure that we are providing the right guidance and that whether it's starting your food business and growing your food business or finding other opportunities with businesses we're already working with, that's something we want to focus on because you can be entrepreneurial in an existing business. You can partner with an existing business. It doesn't mean you have to start everything from scratch and reinvent the wheel. So we have this 3,000 square foot shared kitchen, which will have 5 bays for production. This is where people will start by renting by the hour, and it actually trains the entrepreneurs to learn, hey, how many cookies can I make in an hour? How many bars can I make in an hour? How many kombucha bottles can I make? And from there, they start to grow their business. Typically, when they hit about 30 or 40 hours a week in a shared kitchen is about the time they would be looking at the private production spaces. We've also got event space, ideation space, our full curriculum, which we run here, and Axion, one of our founding partner companies, will be moving their offices on site. So we will be one of the only incubators to actually have a micro lender on site because as these companies grow, they're constantly going to need financing and capital to keep them growing. And that's something we want to offer. So typically if you get a purchase order, if you need to invest in $10,000 worth of equipment, Axion will be there to help provide those loans so these companies can keep growing and so they don't have any more of those hurdles. Here's an example of one of our small kitchens here. So they seem small, but you can do a lot in a very small space. And that's something we learned early on. We did a lot of feasibility studies. We worked with the entrepreneurs. And we wanted to make sure that we built a space that really accommodates their needs. And what we found is that a lot of times these entrepreneurs are paying for additional square footage that they don't actually need. So we wanted to design a space that is really what you need at that time. We have storage outside of the production space, so there's shared cold, dry, and freezer storage available to them, as well as co-working and office space. Another big challenge these entrepreneurs face is they're doing all their production on site, and then they're going and renting space at a WeWork, they're going home, they're going to their local cafe, and there's that big disconnect between where you're doing your production and where you're doing the rest of your business. We wanted them to be able to have that service on site. So there will be co-working space, office space, there's conference rooms, there's private meeting rooms that they can actually rent out and bring their clients, bring potential customers, and they can do product launches, showcases, demos. All of that can take place on site. Here's an example of a more medium kitchen. So I would say the small kitchen would be more of a consumer packaged goods company, whether it's a baking company, a bottling company. But then the medium spaces might be more appropriate for a catering company or a commissary space for some of the restaurants. We've partnered with some great organizations in Chicago who want to move their commissary space into our facility. So we'll have a really nice blend of startup entrepreneurs in that beautiful entrepreneurial community, as well as great partners and expertise that will be on site as well. So a couple of ways that we actually were able to launch this concept along with our 2 partner companies are with great partners and sponsors. So our 3 primary fiscal sponsors are Kellogg Company, ConAgra, and Griffith Foods. And then we also have programming sponsors. Now the great feature about that is we've started to partner with some of these large organizations that have in-house talent and knowledge that they would like to share with the entrepreneurs. So one of our first tenants will be Ingredion. They're a well-known ingredient company right here in Chicago, and they will actually have their ideation lab at the Hatchery. And the reason they want to do it is not just for their internal business, but they want to provide that service to entrepreneurs. So on site, if you're having issues with development, you need assistance with any kind of recipe creation, you're trying to figure out how to get a unique texture or flavor in your product, you will have ingredient experts on site. You can go over to their lab. They can provide you with some ingredients right away that you can test out. But then you also have access to a food scientist and technician that can help support you as you continue to grow. We will also have kitchens for Kellogg. So Kellogg is looking to have an R&D side and a few others from their team that will actually be housed on site there to provide support. And a few additional companies as well who are looking to possibly do flavor libraries. So we really want to get this to be an innovation hub where you have everything at your fingertips. And that's our ultimate goal, is so that you can see these great emerging brands come out of our space, and we've provided everything they need on site. So what sets us aside from the other incubators? As mentioned, some key features. We will be one of the largest food and beverage incubators. We will be one of the first to have a micro lender on site, one of the first to actually build this space from the ground up. And we also have a unique mission in terms of community and making sure that entrepreneurs are able to work together. We have a very holistic approach to how we work with our entrepreneurs. It's not enough just to provide technical services. We want to provide that emotional support, that support from your community, because we see it every single day. Entrepreneurs will burn themselves out. A lot of times it's a very isolating space. It can be incredibly challenging. And if you don't have a community or a network of entrepreneurs and individuals that you can seek support from or you can connect with, it becomes really challenging. And that's a big reason why we've been able to establish this great family. We work with over 200 food and beverage entrepreneurs. They know each other. They work with one another. They do so much more than we can ever do because they're able to exchange resources amongst themselves, say, hey, which buyer did you use for this product? Or I'd love to know what broker you've been working with. Were they good? Were they bad? And that's just a great way to exchange information. We're also able to give a voice to these entrepreneurs. There's power in numbers. A lot of times when you're starting out, if you're making $50,000 a year, it's really difficult to negotiate pricing with various markets, with ingredient companies. We are able to bring these companies together, so if you have 100 of these companies, suddenly people take note. So what we've been able to do is group companies together so that they can source product and reduce their cost. We've also partnered with great markets and events throughout Chicago and the country. The Specialty Food Association this year gave us a free booth in the Incubator Village. So we were able to save 5 of our member companies tens of thousands of dollars. And that's something we continue doing, is that we want to be the voice. So when we partner with companies, we always want to pass through the discounts to our members and say, hey, what can you do to reduce the price if we get 20 of our members to buy this blender from you or this particular type of ingredient? And we find that to be incredibly powerful and a great opportunity for us going forward. We also have future plans for the facility. So there's additional acreage just behind the space here where we're going to be using this as an opportunity to test out this concept and see what works and what additional services are needed. So if we do find that these companies need more co-working space, maybe they need a pilot plant. Co-manufacturing is a big pain point for a lot of these companies. So this is an opportunity for us in the next 3 to 5 years to really test out this concept and see what's coming next and how we should best prepare for it. This is this is just a picture of some of our members just to show, and it went down. We'll get this back up. So that was just an image of some of our member companies there. And let's get this back up for you. Let's see.
Load PowerPoint, then go to Reason.
Which one?
Just load PowerPoint, and then go to Open. We'll give you the most recent one you had.
That's why you're here. Oh, great. Perfect, perfect. Thank you, Dave. Let's see if we can get that up. Recent. There we go. You are hired. Perfect. Okay. So that was just an image of some of our member companies, and what we like to do is we like to position ourselves as being a little bit different than other incubators in the industry, which is ultimately being a startup for startups. We are a young company ourselves. We are a very small team. You've basically met half of our team here today. So we have Alex, who is our marketing and communications associate, and then we have the wonderful Liliana here, who is our administrative assistant, who's been helping get everything set up for you today. So we are a very small team, and we learn as our entrepreneurs learn, and that's so important to us because we want to continue expanding, we want to continue growing, and we want to provide the best support to these entrepreneurs, but we learn as we go. So we have this great opportunity for unique insights and perspectives on the industry. So one thing we like to say is our approach to trends, for example. We have traditionally, if you look at a lot of the big data companies who we've partnered with as well, one of our great partners is actually IRI, and they provide free data to our members. So you can imagine that's a lot of great access to data because it can be quite costly. We've typically calculated it can be anywhere from $5,000 to $30,000 worth of data that we're able to provide our companies. And that's a great opportunity. But when you look at the data there, it's kind of this top-down vision of data. So you can see what's already immersed in the space, what's already pretty prevalent and everyone's well aware of. But we actually see these entrepreneurs on the ground floor and what's to come. So we're kind of a few steps ahead, we like to think of it, in terms of seeing the trends and getting a better understanding of where the industry is headed. Here's a few of our member companies here. And this is just a selection. As mentioned, we work with over 200 companies, and we have different membership platforms. So we have memberships for early stage entrepreneurs, that's kind of a stage one, and then we have more of those later stage companies. We were always thinking of some fun names like the Bud Company or the Hatchling, and so we have those earlier stage companies that are just getting launched and need a lot of service in terms of that hand-holding, walking them through the process, everything from licensing and regulatory aspects, getting their certification in place. But then we also have those later stage companies, and you can see some here where we have a unique blend. The majority of the companies we work with are consumer packaged goods in the better for you category. So a lot of those health food products you're seeing in stores. But then we also have a unique mix of companies, both in ready to eat, catering companies, meal delivery, and then we also have a lot of food tech companies. So you see a few here, Inductive Intelligence, Farmer's Fridge, Tovala. We're seeing a lot more food tech companies coming forward. And one of the spaces we're exploring is that intersection between industries. We're actually doing an exciting immersion event, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a moment. But we're doing an immersion event for a big CPG company, and we'll be talking about intersections in food. So intersections in food and beauty, food and technology, food and health. You're going to see a lot more of these industries start to collaborate and combine because there's a great opportunity to connect with your consumer in that way. And so with other trends that we're seeing, this is always a fun, I always like to show this example. I found this online, and it's kind of how to feed a millennial. And right in the middle is, that'll just satisfy everybody, right? So one thing that we're seeing is customization in food. Every millennial, every Gen Z right now, they want to feel a personal connection to the brand that they're going to be purchasing, working with, and a great way to do that is to showcase some form of customization so that you feel a direct connection to that company. And so this is a business called Dr. Smood. Great concept. It's throughout the country. They have a couple locations in New York and Miami. And what they do, if you go on their website, you don't see food first. You actually see opportunities like this where you're looking at the function before the food. And so you actually will click on an example. So if you want detox, beauty, health, you click on that, and then from there it'll punch out some food items and menu items that will actually help with that specific function you're looking for. And here's an example. So this is some of their supplements that they give. You hear companies like this, Moon Dust. It doesn't really look like food anymore, but it's really highlighting the function. And that's what we see in terms of trends around packaging. You don't see as many callouts for flavors. You see a lot of callouts on the function and the benefit because customers want to know, what is this food going to do for me? This space is very trendy right now, and I always like to show this slide because you can see a lot, again, not so much like food. Gut shot doesn't sound like something super appetizing. It sounds a little bit aggressive, but people will actually purchase foods for the function. And then this was interesting because probiotics are so trendy right now. This was a company at Expo West, one of the largest food trade shows in the country, and this is actually cleaning. This is detergent, and they said detergent with probiotics. So everybody's trying to capitalize on this trend, and you can see again those intersections where you'll see food and beauty. You'll see a lot of beauty products that have kale and chia seeds, all sorts of unique elements that they're combining. You see there's a nail polish brand which actually has colors from acai bowls. That space is slowly but surely starting to intertwine a little bit more, where you're actually seeing beauty products being sold in traditional retail spaces like Free People and Anthropology. You're seeing Sephora starting to carry a lot more beauty products as well. And then a couple of the unique trends, we're seeing kind of chia, kale, turmeric. This is growth we've seen on menus. And again, we partner with a lot of great data companies. So this data is from Data Central, an amazing organization. We partner with them as well, and they provide free access to data for our members. This is another exciting trend, is charcoal, and we always like to show how we're trying to detox the system, so extracting the system in order to just improve our health, but then also nourish our system. And you see those oppositions a lot right now in the industry with things like charcoal, which is really intended for detox, but then you see kale and spirulina and everything that's very nourishing. It has a more nutritionally dense profile, and that's what a lot of customers are looking for right now. And then as mentioned in terms of the call-outs, here are some great examples where you're not seeing a flavor directly, you're seeing recover, recharge, you know, call-outs where you feel like, oh, they're talking to me directly as a customer, versus, oh, it's just a standard product that appeals to the masses. And then a big space that we're seeing lots of growth on is the cannabis industry. We actually held our first The Business of Culinary Cannabis workshop and networking event not too long ago. Dave was there. And it's a really unique space. And we don't take a personal stance on anything, but it's important for us, again, to be one step ahead of everything. And we're well aware that now that more people are incorporating CBD into their product lines, beverage, snack foods, we know they're going to be coming to our facility looking for production space. So we need to make sure that we're on top of all regulations, we understand what implications there are, and what we should be planning for ahead of time. Additionally, in functionality, mushrooms seem to be the hottest item right now. You're seeing them everywhere. I remember 3 years ago I did a trend presentation, and I was talking about the rise of mushrooms, and so now it really seems to be fully present in the industry in multiple formats. So we hear things like bitter blockers, which are derived from mushrooms and actually cancel out the bitterness of things like coffee and beer, medicines. And then you also hear about unique medicinal mushrooms, which are being incorporated into foods such as energy bars, beverages. You can see here chocolate with reishi mushroom. Four Sigmatic is one of the more popular ones. They have mushroom coffee, mushroom tea, mushroom lattes, all sorts of unique items, and then mushrooms here in the bars with Purely Elizabeth. So also from a protein standpoint, it's a complex protein. You're hearing about more people trying to reduce meat consumption and replace it with more plant-based protein. And so you see things like the 50-50 burger, which is 50% beef and 50% mushroom. But you're also seeing, because of the umami flavor of mushroom, which can really replace that umami flavor you get with beef, that's something that we can see incorporated in a variety of formats. And then just as I mentioned before, some exciting opportunities from a partnership standpoint. We do some unique events for businesses that we work with, and this is across the scope. So both with large CPG companies like the PepsiCos of the world, or legal firms, consulting firms, retailers. We've actually been working with a lot of retailers. We've had a few supermarket executives fly out a few months ago who want to change the way their layout of the space looks like, how they're appealing to customers. We're hearing a lot of supermarkets that are trying to dive more into food service, where it's kind of 50%, I'm going to go pick up my groceries, 50% I'm going to sit down and have lunch and get my food to go so that I've got prepared meals. You hear things like Home Chef right here in Chicago, acquired by Kroger. And so they're, again, trying to find ways to get these deconstructed meals in stores, because as much as we're seeing that shift towards online and the digital world, omni-channel is so important because the more presence you have, the more likely you can get in front of your customer. And so that's important. We see companies, one of our member companies is Kitch Fix here in Chicago, and they have a great omni-channel presence. They have not only a catering and meal delivery service, they also have 2 consumer packaged goods products, Paleo, their grain-free granola, as well as their grain-free waffles. They also have a physical storefront where they sell their meals so that you, from a retail standpoint, you can walk in the store and purchase the meals there. So it's a great way to get in front of customers in a variety of methods because we want a one-stop shop. That's why Amazon is gaining so much popularity now, because if I need to order my meals, I get it. If I need to go into Whole Foods, I walk in there. If I want to go into Amazon Go and not worry about taking my credit card out and making payments on the spot, all of that is available to me. So the more diversity and the more product you can have in one site for a customer's needs, the better. This is a good example of how we think through innovation, both internally but also with partner companies. We run immersion experiences, and these are typically either half-day or 3-day long events, and it's a chance for us to work with either the leadership team or specific departments from various organizations to help them think through what's happening in the industry. And this includes safaris where we'll take you through the city and showcase some unique features, where you'll stop into a place like Foxtrot and learn a little bit more about how consumer habits are changing in terms of how they're purchasing or finding various grocery items. We'll take you over to places that are a little bit outside the food space and outside the box, where we might stop into Free People. We might go into Glossier, which is the new cosmetic and beauty space. So just looking at different industries and what they're doing, and then we kind of bring it back with doing some design thinking, talking through the application of what we that day and seeing how we can bring that internally into the business that we're working with. So whether that be your R&D team, your marketing team, trying to think through strategic ways to maybe partner with existing organizations or change things up internally, because we hear a lot about disruption in the industry, and a lot of companies are taking note and realize that we have to get a few steps ahead now in order to stay relevant in the space, because these startups are just taking over the industry. So we're able to provide insights on that through these immersion experiences. We also partner with great organizations. As mentioned, a lot of what we do is being a resource center. So we like to partner with organizations, whether it be legal firms, financial institutions, branding experts, where we would bring you in for coaching sessions to teach seminars and workshops to our members. And it's also a great opportunity for potential customer acquisition. Usually these startups like to build relationships early on. So if you can actually create trust with them right in the beginning and give them some information that helps them right in those early stages, they're more likely to then continue that partnership and find a way to work with you. We've seen that with a lot of acquisitions. We've seen startups who've been acquired, and they really went with the company that they built that relationship with early on, where they know how the inner workings of that organization are and that they feel comfortable in merging the two companies together. So that's something we're always encouraging. We always foster collaboration in order to support the entrepreneurs and support the local community, and that's something we'll continue to do moving forward. So thank you all. Any questions? Yes?
So after, so the microloans and that, is there